I want to tell you about the moment that I sat in a shower and begged God to tell me what the hell was happening to my life. Not metaphorically, but actually in a shower on the floor, probably knowing me crying in the very specific way you cry when you're not entirely sure what the fuck you're crying about, but like your whole body has decided it's time and it's not asking for your permission. And I remember the feeling that was in the room, like this specific visceral, this is not okay feeling that had driven me out of a client session and down, out the room to my husband, who looked at me like I had lost my mind because I was standing there telling him that I was dying. And in that moment, I can't explain what was happening inside my body. Like, there's no words for it. I just knew it was over. I'm like, I'm dying. I'm dying. And he's looking at me like I'm crazy because, to all observable evidence, I'm completely fine. I'm breathing, I'm standing, I'm talking, I'm not dying, except I was not fine. Something had happened in that room that I did not have the framework to name yet. Something I had been building towards for months with Reiki, with card reading, with the whole world I'd walked into because someone I trusted told me that the woo space was where the magic lived, that this was where Jesus was, and getting closer to the mystical meant getting closer to God. Had arrived at a moment of reckoning that I could not explain, could not intellectualize, and I could not outrun it. And in the shower, you know, after, my husband's like, go outside, get some fresh air, take some deep breaths. Um, I came in, I went into a cold shower in that patient, like slightly bewildered way that he's looking at me like he's scared. I think he's genuinely scared. He thinks I'm losing my mind. Um, but he's like, you're not dying. So I'm up here alone in the shower. Um, and I hear something like it's not audible. Okay. It's not words exactly, but it was a clarity that was completely unlike anything I'd experienced in all the months of Reiki and card pulling and this energy work and the modalities and practices. It was God, actually God. And he said, in whatever language God uses when he's done watching you wonder and need you to stop, he said, drop it all. Drop everything. You're done. You've been working with the wrong thing. This is not me. You have you have been bamboozled. And I knew immediately, with the same certainty when a dream breaks and you're suddenly completely unmistakably awake. I knew what I had been in. I knew what I'd brought into that room. I knew what I had brought to other people, and the shame, the specific crushing, where do I even begin shame of someone who had been trying to get closer to God and had walked directly into the opposite direction and then handed the map to other people. That shame showed up with me that moment. And it took me a long time to grow through that, to heal through that, and to stand here and say that out loud. But that's it, bitch. Okay. I was running with the devil. If you guys are new here, this is the Listen Bitch podcast. I am I am Brandon Lynette. Um Again, this is one of those episodes. I don't hide shit from you guys, but it really has taken me a long time to come to terms with everything I experienced, and I feel personally absolutely exposed. Um and that's kind of saying something because I feel like I expose myself a lot, but this is huge, you know. Um I admitted to, my self sabotage, hiding behind my kids, but like this goes somewhere different, somewhere that requires a kind of honesty that's not comfortable, not something I can even curate, and is not the version of the testimony that's been cleaned up. Okay, it's the raw, the shower, the literally I thought I was dying, and God said that I'm selling out, and I want to bring it here because of shame. The specific paralyzing keeps everything else stuck kind of shame that we're talking about today. It does not survive in the light. It lives in secret. It grows in the silence. And I've been quiet about this particular thing for long enough that the silence itself has kind of become a weight. Um, your mess is your message. And my mess today is spectacular. Um, yeah, the fact that I was delving into Reiki, gifted Reiki. I thought it was a gift bestowed upon me because I was worthy. The card reading, not only was I spending copious amounts of money on a love coach who I trusted completely, and demons I didn't have a name for, and the specific mercy of God who met me at at the crossroads when I had nowhere else to go. And I knew had I kept going, I was done. Like the good part of my soul was going to be gone because I was talking to demons. And I fully believe that you feel like you're hearing from your ancestors, you're hearing from spirits. Third year into the Bible, that's a demon. Like that is not real. It is not real. It is real in the sense that it's a demon, but it is not God's voice. Okay. Um, and I was bringing this to other people, doing Reiki healing and bringing these spirits to these people. Um, and that was the hardest part of getting over this. But you guys, come on. If you have a chapter of your story that you just keep locked in a room because of shame, um, and that shame feels too heavy, like this episode, I want this to be the one that you're like, holy shit, she can confess that. I can do it. I can do it. Shame is not the same as guilt. And the distinction, it's not semantics, okay? It's a difference between a wound that heals and a wound that festers. Guilt says I did something wrong. Shame says I am something wrong. And guilt is about behavior. Shame is really connected to your identity. And guilt can be addressed. You acknowledge what happened, you make it right where you can. You apologize to people when they think you're crazy for apologizing because they still believe in the woo bullshit. Okay. So, first of all, but that guilt of just like understanding the closer I was trying to get to Christ and chase that connection, I was falling for the worldly stuff. Um, Guilt has an exit. It really does. And shame doesn't. Shame is like a room with no doors. And it tells you that the thing you did is not a chapter of your story, but it's the definition of it. And that you're not a person who made a mistake, but a mistake that happens to be a person. And the reason shame is so devastatingly effective at keeping people stuck is that it attacks the one thing that all growth requires. And that's the belief that you are worth the effort of changing. You cannot build something new from a foundation of I am fundamentally broken. You can't step into a calling from a place of I am disqualified by my own history. You cannot be used by God fully, powerfully, specifically used while simultaneously believing that the thing you did or the season you walked through or the chapter you would rather not read out loud makes you the wrong person for the assignment. Shame is the devil's most effective tool, not because it destroys you dramatically. It's not a big event. It can do that, but really because it manages you quietly. Like it keeps you just functional enough to not collapse and just burdened enough to never fully fly. It's the wet blanket on every fire that God tries to spark inside of you. It's been doing its job with impressive efficiency on a lot of people who should be changing the world right now. And instead, you're sitting there quietly with a secret that's eating you alive. And here's the truth that breaks shame at its root. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Not some condemnation, not reduced condemnation, not condemnation minus the really bad stuff. No condemnation. Full stop, period. The end. Not a suggestion. That is a declaration over your specific life, including the chapter you're most ashamed of, including my Reiki sessions, including the cards, including the years I called the universe. I'm joking the other day because I have some incredible books, you guys. Once Upon a Time Bitches and Fuck Luck Bitches, if you haven't checked them out. But just, I reread them the other day and I thought, wow, I've really outgrown her. I've outgrown her and I love where she got me. Um, but a lot of people would read that. And even that to me is slightly misleading because I'm talking about the universe, you know? Um, including all of that, including whatever your version of that is. The season you would edit out if you could, right? The chapter you wish was not in the book, the statements, the sentences, no condemnation. Jesus said it. The cross sealed it. Shame does not get to override it. Um, and I want to kind of just, I guess, take you to that how I got into the woo space because the entry point matters as much as the exit. And I think a lot of people are at the entry point right now and they need to hear this. Okay. I was hungry for God. That is the honest starting place. I was not looking for an alternative to God, I was looking for more of Him. I wanted the supernatural. I wanted the mystical. I'm listening to Joe Dispenza and I just get lost. I'm doing these meditations that's, bringing up DMT in my body. I'm hallucinating. Like I was meditating so much I didn't even want to be back on earth. I felt what it felt like to be somewhere else and the amount of love that consumed me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I want out of here, right? Um, you guys, that's not what we wanted when we came here. I chose the human experience, and that's where I need to stay now. I wanted the experience of faith that went beyond sitting in a church pew and nodding on things I intellectually agree with. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to encounter it. I wanted it to be so obvious and so real that that's where it was. And this life coach, you know, I looked up to her. She had the results I admired, the framework I was learning from. She told me that this is where the magic lived, that all the modalities, the energy work, the crystals, intuitive practices, Reiki, cards, all of this was the most magical space in personal development and that Jesus was in it. We would pray. We would pray to him. She taught me to pray to him and to God before I started my Reiki healing sessions. And this meant that getting closer to the mystical meant getting closer to God. And I was in. I thought, hell yes, sign me up. I gave her all the monies. If this is where Jesus is, I want to be there and I want to help other people get there. So I went. I went in fully the way I do everything, completely enthusiastically. I didn't half-ass it. She gifted me the sessions. I practiced. I brought it to my clients. I talked about it. I built a version of my practice around it. My whole coaching business. Dream Big Bitches Coaching, RIP. Well, it's revived now, but under new management. Okay, it's the real Jesus guiding us now. Um, Moments that felt like encounter, moments that felt, that had like this emotional texture of something real and significant happening. I interpreted those moments through the framework I'd been given that this is energy, this is the magic, this is the divine showing up. Except that one day that I'm in a Reiki session facilitating for a client. I mean, she's actually my friend. Okay. Doing the thing I'd been trained to do. And, I felt like I'd talked to her brother. Her brother's passed away. I see all this energy and I know these guys, I've seen them, but something else entered the room. And I don't know how else to say this except to say it plainly. Something that was not good was in that room and I could feel it with that. It bypassed my intellect entirely and went straight to something deeper, something in me that knew before my brain could form the words for it that what was present was not God. It was not divine. All of a sudden I saw all the evil everywhere and I didn't even have the time to comprehend. My body shut down. Like my brain, it was like I was super dizzy, not connected to my body. I can't even explain this. This was not the energy of the universe. It was something that I did not want in the room with me or my client. And I left. She's in the middle of a sentence and I just looked at the screen and I'm like, I have to go to the hospital. I left. I tell my husband again, he's looking at me like I'm standing there, I'm breathing, I'm talking, I'm functioning. I just keep saying I'm dying. That's all I could say. Um I sit outside. I sit outside for a while and I'm trying to do all the things like the senses and all the things and I don't feel right. I don't feel right. I get into the cold shower because I think I'm just in shock. And that's where I break down. And that's where I'm talking to God, just raw. stripped down. Like, I don't know what the hell just happened, but I need you in a way that I think is the most honest I've ever asked for you to be in my life. Right? Because when we get into trouble or when we go through something scary, we're like, God, please. No, this was a level of desperation that was like the last chance at my soul screaming for him to protect me, because what portal did I just open? What did I do? What am I playing with? Like, I let darkness here. Did I do that? Did I do that? He was there. He's there immediately. And I love this because like my eyes are welling up with tears because again, like this was very traumatic for me. Um and it's obviously when you think of your trauma, it kind of feels like it's still real, but I remember this desperation. Feel it, you know. Um but he showed up, and all I knew is like it's over. And I was making stupid money. Like stupid money. Okay. You guys see the motorcycles in our garage? Okay, that's like the third and fourth one. Stupid money. Um didn't do anything smart with it, but stupid money. Um I had a great client list, you know, and he said drop it. Drop everything. This is not me. You've been fooled. And I knew what I'd been in. I knew what I'd been touching, and I knew everything. Like suddenly I could see with so much clarity. Um, and the part that landed, I think, with the most weight is what I had brought to other people. The clients I'd worked with using these methods, the people who trusted me, and I brought them something that I now understood with gut level certainty was not what I thought it was. That was the shame, not the experience itself. I'm actually grateful because it cracked something open and put me in a shower begging God in a way that brought me closer to him than years of anything else ever had or would. It's about what I carried to other people, that I'd been in my genuine hunger for God and my genuine desire to help people. I was an instrument of something I would not have chosen had I known what I was truly choosing. And then I walk away from coaching, and for a very long time, because the shame said, you don't get to do this anymore. You lost credibility. You walked in the wrong door. You brought people with you, and that disqualifies you. And I believed it. I believed it. I did not deserve to get to work with people because I literally handed them the devil. I believed it for a very long time. And this is what God says, you know. And this wasn't one of those in the shower moments where he's like, burn it down. This was very slow, patient, saying these things over a couple years, like he's rebuilding something. And he says to me, the detour is not the disqualification. The detour is your testimony. The fact that you went in the wrong room and heard my voice calling you out of it, that's not a mark against you. That is a mark of my pursuit. That is me coming to get you in the specific place you were in so that you would know beyond any intellectual argument that in any real that my voice is distinct, and that the counterfeit exists because the real thing is worth counterfeiting. That testimony, the messy, embarrassing, I called it the universe and got demon adjacent energy in a Reiki session testimony, is the most powerful thing I carry because it's completely true. And there is nothing the enemy can do with the complete truth when I have learned to tell it without shame. Here I am, bitches. Okay. I would say I am healed. We're back. The coaching is open for business, and my new foundation is built biblically. As in, this is my third year going through the Bible every single day and making sure that foundation is him. I know his voice now, and I know who not to listen to. But I just kind of, you know, I think about this and I think about like the wellness industrial complex, you know. It's a multi-billion dollar industry that has done something extraordinary. It's clever. It's clever. It's taken the genuine human hunger for transcendence, for encounter, because we want to be connected to the thing that's bigger than us. We want that experience of something larger than ourselves. They've monetized it, they've packaged it, they made it accessible, aesthetically appealing, and completely untethered from any specific theological commitment that might be inconvenient for the market. Here's the problem, you know. And I know you guys see the woo bullshit everywhere. Okay. People think it's fun to say, hey, we're witches. It's the coven. My ancestors are telling me this. And, I'm in an interview the other day and someone's like, the voices are telling me to tell you to follow me on Instagram. And I'm thinking, I know that's a lie because if there was really someone talking to him, they would be like, she's the absolute opposite of you. And she's just going to keep talking about Jesus. Okay. So we knew they weren't, we know that wasn't true what he was hearing. But it is that there's such a market, about your horoscope. We want to know the future, what's coming. We try to do all these analytics on things just to feel like we belong or we have some sense of control. Um, it's all of it. Okay. Here's the problem with Jesus for like the wellness brand for this holistic whatever you want to call it woo bullshit. Jesus is exclusive. He says I am the way. Singular, specific, not one path among many. And when you're exclusive, it's terrible for market share. You can't sell a product to everyone if the product requires you to choose. So, this industry, because it's brilliant, created a category of spiritual experience that has all the feeling of encounter without the commitment to God. And it's not specific, it's just your higher power, energy, the universe, vibrations. Okay. I know. I remember I used to say that, like, just choose a different vibration. Yeah, the Bible does that for me now, right? Manifestation, that's a big one. Reiki, the crystal healing, tarot, Akashic records, that's another one. Y'all are doing the human design. Yes, all these things feel mystical and real and profound, and that your nervous system, which was designed to encounter the divine, it responds to it with genuine sensation. You think you're a good person, all of a sudden you're light, and it's okay to be a witch as long as it's a witch of light. No, babe, I love you so much. I know some of this might hurt y'all feelings. That's the devil. Your nervous system does not discriminate between the real thing and a convincing imitation. It just knows it felt something. Um, and the people that offer these things that are selling this, I know I came from a place of genuinely well meaning. So I'm going to say that very clearly. The life coach who introduced me to this space, she's not malicious. She believed what she was telling me. And that is precisely what makes it so effective. If I was the devil, that'd be the perfect trap, right? Let's make it sound so amazing here. And it's populated by sincere people, sincerely deceived, spreading sincerely held beliefs that lead sincerely hungry people away from the only thing that can actually satisfy that hunger. And this wellness industry sold spiritual experience, you know, decoupled from spiritual truth, sold it to an entire multiple generations of people who were, maybe hurt by a church, never believed, skeptical of organized religion, too genuinely hungry for the real thing to wait for the sanitized version that organized religion decides to serve up. I was one of them. I walked right in, and God had to come and save me in the middle of a Reiki session. And like, you can't make this up, right? The enemy does not build things that look evil. He just doesn't. He builds the thing that will look like what you're looking for. And for someone looking for Jesus in the mystical space, he's the devil's going to build a mystical space. He will absolutely populate it with real experiences and real sensations and real community and real feeling encounters. He's not stupid. You guys think I ever felt bad leading up to this? I felt powerful. I'm like, wow, I can call people in the room anytime I want to help me figure out why this person can't get over their trauma. I can move energy in people's bodies. I felt powerful. I felt good. I felt alive. I felt like the sun is shining down on me. I prayed for the light of heaven. God, open up the third heaven was some shit that I said. And I would just I'd imagine I could feel that ray of sunshine, right? People focused on chakras, right? Again, that's just a little window to what this is. The Bible tells you how to steward your body. Absolutely. And it's not woo bullshit. But like Satan's been doing this for millennia. He knows what you're hungry for. He knows how the fuck to build you a convincing replica. The real thing and the counterfeit are going to feel similar until they don't. And the moment they don't, the moment the real thing shows up and the difference is unmistakable, you will never confuse them again. That shower was my moment, and I would not trade it. Even that feeling, that experience of like, okay, I'm dying. I'm dying. I don't know what's happening. Uh the most terrifying thing. I had PTSD for a very long time. In fact, I literally just saw the other day, I still have calm drops. These are called calm drops. And I would start going into a terror panic and I'd have to take them. Like I was losing my mind, you guys. It was crazy. The devil doesn't play. Okay, but neither does my God because we figured it out together. I wouldn't trade any of this because now I know with a certainty that no intellectual argument could produce what God's voice sounds like or what God feels like or what it does feel like to have the sun and the light of his love piercing through me. And knowing that is worth every moment of the shameful detour that preceded it. And shame, it's going to show up in that story that's keeping you locked up in a room. And I was locked up in a room for several years. Okay. Went back to bartending full time. Um, couldn't even get back into like the network marketing jam because I was just so disconnected from people in the online space because I harmed people unknowingly, which now hindsight, I know I'm sure God protected them from whatever it was I was trying to do. Right. I fully believe that. Um, it was just what we needed to do in that moment to get me where I needed to be. But this is the thing, you guys, shame is coming in that chapter that nobody will ever get to read because you keep it to yourself. That thing you did or the season you were in and the direction you walked that you've decided disqualifies you from the version of yourself that you're trying to become. Every time you get close to the thing, like to your calling, to your platform, the visibility, and every time you step forward, shame opens that room and shows you what's inside. It's not to help you, it's to stop you, to remind you that people who did what you did do not get to do what you're trying to do. It shows up in imposter syndrome. I was so terrified to even offer taking on clients. I gave 3 free coaching spaces because I thought I need to remember who I am in this again. So 3 times I do this and they're not paying me, so I don't have the pressure of like they're paying me, but there was pressure. There was a lot. Imposter syndrome was like, oof. And that has a specific historical source. It's not the generic, who am I to do this? Like imposter syndrome, but the one that says, I know exactly why I'm not qualified. And it's not generic. It is very specific. It happened in a specific season. I'm still carrying it. That shame, I bullshit myself into believing it was just self-awareness. And it's going to follow you into every room you try to step into until you deal with it. It's showing up in the shit that you're delaying. The years between the shower and here, the time spent sitting with a disqualification narrative instead of the redemption one, that specific expensive toll of believing that your detour was the destination, that where you were is where you stay, instead of understanding that the detour was the training ground and the mess was the message being assembled literally in real time. If you're neurospicy, I mean, everything compounds, okay? Because we are exquisitely sensitive to our own perceived failures, okay? The rejection sensitive dysphoria, right? That fire, it fires on external rejection, applies equally to internal shame, does the same thing there. So self judgment in my brain is brutal in a way that no one could understand that doesn't have a brain like mine. Just forgive yourself. Like that's a joke. When your brain is running on a continuous highlight reel of every conversation, every mistake, every healing session you did, it's there with commentary. You know, it's not quiet. It's very loud, it's persistent, it's detail oriented, and it's memorized every piece of evidence it's ever collected and will present it again and again with full emotional fidelity at the exact moment you're trying to move forward. The shame you carry is not proportional to what actually happened. Your brain has amplified it. Your nervous system stores it with this vividness that makes it feel present even when it's past. feel that experience. It's very present. And the work of releasing it is not the same work that other people could do. Like, you have to be gentle, you have to be patient. The fact that it's coming here now, I realize like it's not even something that's fully completely been released in my body. The fact that the tears in my eyes come, like that's a very real telling sign of like there's still some of this to unpack. But it's not about demanding my body to do this. I'm not broken. It's just my brain holds things so deep. And that deep holding is calling me to do just the deep releasing. And deep releasing takes time and grace. Um, and definitely, I've needed that specific targeted intervention of a God knows exactly who he built and what he built within me. I needed him to be, he needed me. We worked together. That's exactly, everything worked out perfectly so I could come home. And I'm home. And I love that. Every person who's ever changed the world in any domain, at any scale, has a version of the shameful chapter. The thing they did before they become who they become, really. The direction they walked before they found the right one, the season that if you only saw that season would make you question everything that came after. Um Paul wrote most of the New Testament. He's one of my favorites, you guys. He supervised the murder of Christians before his conversion. You hear me? Like, he slaughtered them. And it was violent and brutal and heartless. It was like there's no humanity in him. His Reiki session, his moment in the shower was being knocked off a horse and going blind and hearing the voice of God he had been persecuting say, "Why are you fighting me?" And he got up, blind, disoriented, completely humbled. And he became the most prolific communicator the gospel has ever had. The man who persecuted the church wrote the letters that built it. Do you hear what I'm saying? Your detour is not the disqualification, the detour is the testimony. Moses murdered a man and ran away for 40 years, you guys, before God showed up in a burning bush and said, "Now, like now you're ready." Not despite the 40 years in the desert, but because of them. David, he's another of my favorites. Another after God's own heart, right? The sweet psalmist of Israel, the king whose lineage produced the Messiah, committed adultery and arranged a man's murder to cover it up. And God called him a man after his own heart, not before it happened. This was after, in full knowledge of knowing what he did. Your chapter does not disqualify you. It brings everything into context. It gives you the authority that only lived experience can provide. And the person who needs to hear about coming out of the woo space is not going to be reached by someone who's never been in it. They're going to be reached by someone who was in it, heard God's voice pulling them out, sat in the shower with the weight of what they'd brought to other people, and they got the fuck up anyway. These people are going to be reached by me. That's the wild card. My shame is not the part of the story that disqualifies me from helping people. It's the part of my story that qualifies me for people who could need me the most. If shame is the reason you've not launched the thing, the podcast, the message, the platform, the book, the business, shame is not telling you the truth about your readiness. Shame is telling you a story about your past, and your past is not your qualification barrier. Your past is your material. The person who needs the podcast that only you can make is not looking for someone who never got it wrong. They're looking for someone who fucked up and came back. Someone who walked into the wrong room and heard God's voice calling them out of it. Someone who carried the shame for years and was willing to put it down. Not perfectly. Obviously, it's still there, so not all at once. Not without it trying to pick itself back up again. But put it down and build something anyway. This person is you, specifically you, with your specific detour, your specific shower, your specific clarity that came from the specific encounter with a God who came to find you in the woo space, because that is where you were. He doesn't wait for you to find your way back. He's there with you now. I'm waiting for you guys. God's waiting for you. Your mess is your message. The Reiki mess, the universe language mess, the shame of what I brought to other people mess, all of it. It is the most compelling, most specific, most disarming testimony you have because it's completely verifiably personally true. And when you stand in front of people with the complete truth of your story, the enemy has nothing to work with. There is no secret left. There is no closet. There's no locked room. You guys can listen to past episodes or probably find old TikToks where I was doing card readings. Okay. Not hiding it. Because now here's the truth offered openly, pointing to God who met me in the worst of it and said, this is your material. Whatever that is for you, that's your podcast. That's the coaching. That's the mission. You're exactly the right person for it. Just like I'm the right person for this. Not despite the detour, but because of it. The people who are in the woo space right now, genuinely hungry for God, genuinely sincere, genuinely deceived. I know they need someone who has been in the room, who knows what it feels like from the inside, who can speak the language and also speak the truth about where the language leads. That's not a liability. That is a specific qualification. Come back to the space and name it. Name the chapter, the specific one, not to anyone else yet, but to yourself and to God in whatever privacy you need. Write it down if that helps. Say it out loud if that helps. But name it. Not I made some mistakes in the season. I want you to be specific. The thing that's been living in the locked room. Shame survives in vague and darkness. It dies in specific. So name it and then you watch it shrink. And then, why don't you try to apply the guilt versus shame test? Ask yourself honestly, is what I'm feeling about something I did or something I am? Because if it is about something you did, then it can be addressed, acknowledge it, and obviously make amends where possible and appropriate and receive the forgiveness that is already available and move. If it's about something you are, if the shame is attached to your identity, that is the lie that needs to be confronted directly with the truth of who God says you are, who He says you are. And He says, no condemnation. Remember, full stop, no condemnation. You're beloved, you're called, you're useful, and you're mine. Find the person who needs your specific chapter, not to broadcast it immediately, but to recognize that the very thing you're the most ashamed of is the key to the door of the very person who is most stuck right now in that same room, the woo space. The addiction, the abusive relationship, the financial wreckage, the season of distance from God, the choice that cost you more than you could fully account for. Someone is in that room right now looking for the door, and you know where it is because you found it already, or more accurately, because God came and opened it for you. That's not shame, that is a calling. That is a calling. And when your brain fires up the highlight reel, when the specific shame of this chapter surfaces in that full, vivid detail, do not try to argue with it. Don't try to convince yourself it doesn't matter. Don't try to outthink it. Just say one specific true sentence and say it out loud. There is therefore now no condemnation. That's it. Try it. Say it out loud. You know, say it like you mean it. Say it until you feel something in your body shift. Yell it, scream it, and then say it again. And say it again every time the thoughts come up. Say it again and again. Over time, and it's not immediate, but over time, that little highlight reel gets shorter and the shame gets quieter and the truth gets louder. And that's how it works. It's not a one time fix, it's a daily practice. And sometimes it's you're talking about it again kind of practice. It's the choosing of truth over the shame every single time it comes up. And the truth wins more often than it will ever lose. And that I'm showing you guys. I'm in the arena and I'm here willing to stand in the specific light of this specific mess and say this is it. That's the whole thing. I was in the wrong room. God came and got me. I carried shame about what I brought to other people. I walked away from coaching for a long time because shame told me I had forfeited the right to show up in that space. And then slowly, imperfectly, with God being more patient with me than I deserved, and also very clear about when patience was over, I came back and I'm here. The voice authority. Your mess is your message. My mess is a Reiki session in a shower and a God who doesn't abandon people who wander into the wrong mystical room because they were hungry for the real thing. He knew my heart. He knew my heart. That chapter you're ashamed of, it is not the last chapter. It's not even the defining chapter unless you let it be. It's the one that built in you the specific capacity for the calling that is waiting for you on the other side of putting that shame down. Jesus bore the shame. That's what the cross was. Not just the pain, the shame. He took it, all of it, including the Reiki session. He took that with him, including the cards, including the woo language, including the language in my books. He took all of that. Whatever is yours, he took that too. And he left it there. And he got up and he said, "Now let's go. There's work to do." If this episode reached you in a locked room, please like the show. Please subscribe. Share this with someone you may know who needs it. You know, that person that you just don't know how to tell them that you know who they're talking to is not Christ. That person that you love enough that, you know, maybe they haven't even been open to the idea that there's a possibility this isn't God and they can't hear his voice. Maybe they didn't know him like I knew him before I entered this space. And so they can't even have that good intention of really trying to find him, because if you seek, you will find. Very off centered way. And he dragged my ass out of it. But I found him and he waited for me. But there's someone who needs to hear this. The smallest act to share this, um, generous and kind, because someone needs this. And then you guys can head to brandonlynette.com, get on my list, and, you know, YouTube, please subscribe over there. You guys, I appreciate it. And if you're ready, actually ready, shame doesn't get to win anymore kind of ready, please check the show notes on how to work with me. You know, tell me your story. Let me help you get your voice brought to life. We will work through it. I want to know the chapters you're ashamed of. Tell me why you're the one that needs to be heard. I already believe you are. I know you are, but can you say it out loud to another person? That's all. Whatever part of your story you think disqualifies you right now, that part is the message, and shame doesn't get the last word. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.